It's 11:11. Make a wish.
Hi, it's Luna. Thanks so much for joining me today with the Hacking Hypermobility podcast. Today, I would like to introduce you to the conclusion of the series of episodes with Zebra Dudes. Shelli and I sat down with a panel of men with Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, or hEDS, back in Baltimore. I really appreciated their thoughts, and before we get into the episode, I have some introductory ideas, thoughts, and some Zebra news. But first, my disclaimer before Shelli gets mad at me. So the information in this podcast episode is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. I'm not a doctor. Consult with your healthcare provider for personalized guidance on managing the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes. So June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I suspect that many would agree that most men have been conditioned to view emotion and pain as weakness. I think it's really important to have inclusive conversations and acknowledge people's full humanity. So this is a really interesting topic to introduce to you on the heels of some genetic research breakthroughs. Before we get into this episode and the final segment of our series with the men, let's jump into a Zebra News segment. So, yesterday, on June 11th, 2024, the medical researchers at Norris Lab at the Medical University of South Carolina released their preliminary report with a gene identified for the Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, or hEDS. This research has been widely anticipated. So Dr. Courtney Gensimer is the lead researcher at Norris Lab that published this preprint with over 50 co-authors and released some really helpful explanations with infographics on her social media as well, which I will link in the show notes for you. So this is really a research sneak peek, and it has not gone through what we call peer review in the science community. This means there's more information and data, and we will expect revisions after other scientists review their work. So they share this preview with the quote, "hope to accelerate research progress and foster collaboration while their study goes through the peer review process." So that's their intention of giving us this sneak peek. So when the manuscript was released yesterday, it was noted that these initial findings do not explain all hEDS cases and should not be used to exclude you or anyone from diagnosis. The intention of their work is to, quote, "contribute to the broader landscape, helping improve diagnostic tools and develop future treatment options that may benefit the whole Ehlers-Danlos syndrome community." So I think that was some really key information to note. That was just on the social media post from Dr. Gensimer. So without that information, if you just read the manuscript, you may miss out on that key information. So what makes me personally hypermobile emotional is witnessing advancements from the efforts of a fellow zebra. And I know a lot of younger zebras that are currently studying genetics or medicine. And Courtney Gensimer is a PhD researcher at Norris Lab at MUSC, who is very pivotal towards the research for the hEDS gene. And she's the primary author of this manuscript that came out yesterday. So watching the younger generation of the zebras navigate their health conditions on their own, because they were diagnosed earlier, younger, and then they were able to be accommodated as they made it through the rigors of higher education, and then very actively and profoundly contribute to advocacy work and medical research, is something that is not lost on this bending mama. I shared these thoughts today on social media, and I wanted to share some of my listeners' thoughts. So I'm going to read from you, the listeners, some of your thoughts on this research being released on the hEDS gene. A listener, Jody, said, "Because of the awareness raised by the ones before them, you've passed the torch. Thank you to all the creators who add to this community. Alyssa said, my diagnosis did one amazing thing. My kid can get the help I never got. Calf said their son begins his journey to become a nurse practitioner specializing in EDS this month. At his age, I had zero clue EDS existed, let alone that I had it or that accommodations could be made. So many of our listeners and those in this community contributed our genetic information even to this study. Other listeners expressed some hesitation and concern. Maddie said, I do not have this gene, and this stuff makes me nervous because I absolutely have hEDS, and I don't have any of the genes that they've found thus far. Equinolab said, my worry is that people won't understand that most people with hEDS are not going to have this gene variant, and that most research has been done on white people, and not enough on epigenetics and treatment for what we know now. So, I completely agree. These are really valid concerns and efforts I've been working towards in our advocacy work here on the show and on my own social media platform. So this article about the hEDS gene discovery is interesting, also considering the more recent article coming from the same lab about the phenotypes that they've identified in the hEDS study as well. I adore our zebra herd, and all of the EDS news has been such a great reminder to me, despite our hesitations, of how much more advocacy work and research work there's still to be done, but how much good work has happened, how far we have come. And so on a personal note, from the Bendy Mamas, from me, Luna, Shelli, my co-host, and Tiffany, our producer, we have some great news. The Hacking Hypermobility podcast will be traveling to attend the 2024 Global Conference in Philadelphia in July. And your generosity and support as listeners can help us do things like attend conferences and represent you and patient voices in these spaces, or help us purchase things like new podcast equipment to bring you better quality shows, or more importantly, propel the effort to make our voices louder. So please go to the show's website at hackinghypermobility.com and click shop to donate whatever fits your budget. Our community has expressed a really valid concern that research participants are not truly representative, which is why the Hacking Hypermobility podcast has shifted our perspective, and we are very actively elevating marginalized voices. And this is one of the crucial reasons why we need your help. We can't do this alone. I know we all struggle with spoons and how to distribute our resources. If Luna or Shelli or the Hacking Hypermobility podcast has made a difference in your health journey, would you please consider passing on this gift by supporting the show? So, with that being said, while I respect greatly the work being done by the medical institutions, the researchers, the advocates, and groups like the EDS Society, I think we as a whole, as a zebra community, could do a better job of being more inclusive with the intersectionality of disability. Even though the medical research hasn't caught up to these sentiments, we can do that here in our own community. The season currently happening now with Hacking Hypermobility is our second season, and we have talked to women of color as well as this curious intersection of men with this disability that is widely perceived as a women's condition. When Shelli and I sat down to talk to our Zebra Dude friends, we learned so much from Brandon and Bryan and Doug, who have differing experiences and perspectives. A universal experience from the men that stuck with me was when Bryan explained how he had to shift his way of thinking about his pain that was rooted in how he was taught to be a man. Bryan is a Marine Corps veteran, and he so often heard the adage in the Corps, pain is weakness leaving the body. And in this series, he talks about transmuting this sentiment and adopting a new adage, healing is weakness leaving the body. So witnessing our bendy dudes form this small little community on the show was a really special moment to me, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it inspires you to check in on your community and offer support where you have spare spoons. Where there's pain, offer healing. And now, the last segment of our panel interview with the Zebra Dudes.
Serious question. Seriously, though. So, do you have emotional and family support? And by family, that's chosen family too, or however that looks. Like, what does that look like for you? Or is it something you have to fight for? Like, I'm very lucky, so I almost sometimes feel bad talking about how much support I get from my partner, because I have friends in the community who get like zero support, or like their spouses or partners leave them or mistreat them or gaslight them.
I just
The question. I have a best friend who's a Zebra right now, whose husband filed for divorce this week because he said he could not handle her health condition.
Yeah.
Shitbag.
Yeah, and I don't care if you hear it.
What a terrible human being.
I don't know you, John.
In sickness and in health, huh? I hope that he's never able to find a woman to marry him ever again.
Okay, anyhow, answer the question with your own perspective, though. Just wanted to.
I will say that I want to go first just because I'm in the same boat as you, Shelli. I'm extremely fortunate in that, we have a very small family. It's my wife and I, and we have one child. And I have a parent, her mom lives nearby, that helps a ton. And other than that, it's pretty much us. But I will say that I am very fortunate in another way, in that as a veteran, I do have a lot of support networks for just disability in general that many people do not. And that is always kind of a double-edged sword to address and say, hey, I love that I have this benefit. I hate that I had to have it, but tough line to walk there.
Yeah.
In the same kind of vein, Shelli. So that's my take on
it. What about you, Brandon? We heard a little bit about your partner.
Oh, God bless that man. He puts up with so much of my shenanigans. I think it was 2 months ago, I was like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. I can't see. I can't think straight. He's like, did you drink your electrolytes?
I don't even get asked anymore.
Let me.
Oh, sorry.
I am going to tell you what a day in the life of this couple looks like, because I was just so mad and jealous. So, like, Alec is her husband, walks in with just a jar of electrolytes he's made and goes, here. Or he's like, it's time to eat. Like, he doesn't even ask.
I really hate it when he goes to the office, because he comes home and I'm like, I haven't eaten anything, and I cleaned the whole house. And he's like, well, the house looks great.
It's like
but you're a pile on the floor.
And then I say, don't perceive me, I'm embarrassed.
I do recognize that it's rare.
Yeah. I know how lucky I am, which is why I don't talk about it a lot, because I don't want people to think I'm bragging but everybody deserves
No.
what
And
I have. Everybody deserves that.
So and
I'll say from my perspective,
I want to call out the partners like Katie and Alec and Daniel and Doug. You haven't mentioned yet specifically. I want to ask you too, because you're in our stage of life. Like, I want to recognize partners that deal with this, because I know that's not an easy relationship dynamic, but to really walk that walk and care for someone with disability, and be part of a family maybe in a way that you didn't anticipate when you went into it, because a lot of times we progress as we age. If family members or partners are listening, I want to encourage you and say thank you, because you can't take care of the people that I love, and you are seen. That's all.
Yeah.
What about you, Doug? Who's your support system?
So I'm in kind of a very interesting place that we have a multiple disability household in that my wife is a type 1 diabetic. She's been insulin dependent since she was 18 months old.
18 months.
Yeah. She became potty trained, and then 2 months later, unpotty trained, or I think it was 18 months, something of that along that lines. But yeah.
Wow.
And then our younger daughter, the one that is not hEDS diagnosed, is also a type 1 diabetic.
That's genetic.
So me and the older one, and then her and the younger one.
That's
So y'all are,
yeah, at the time, when we were looking to have kids, we were told that diabetes is nothing that shows that it's heritable, but type 1 specifically heritable.
Type 1, yeah.
Since then, we found out that that is not the case. It is quite heritable.
Oh yeah. They
yeah.
tell you.
Yeah.
My father-in-law is a type 1 diabetic.
So currently it is just me and my wife in the household. The two girls are at college right now. One's a freshman, the other's a sophomore. And like kind of pre-diagnosis for me, I was the rock in the family, the laborer, to say.
Yes. Yes.
I did the yard work. I did everything. I'd go out on a Saturday morning and change the oil in 2 cars, and be out doing stuff outside for the whole day, and then I'd come in and just fall over, or I'd fall over while I was still outside. Just go until that fall over happened, and realized I didn't have lunch. I didn't have anything to drink. I was so dehydrated. I was sunburned, and I just fell over. And I guess since diagnosis, I've learned, to pacing has been massive for me. And it also kind of fits into the way that my weird brain works is, faced with the task, I will say that task is too big and I'll just put it off. So now I break a task up into, like, say 20-minute sections. And not just for ease of my brain clicking them off, but after that 20-minute session, I will sit down and say, and do a whole sort of self-evaluation. Am I thirsty? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Do I need to sit down for a minute? Do I need to lay down for a minute? And that can all be just 30 seconds. And then I will, take on the next portion of the task. And that has changed my life, but it's been a big difference in the way the household works. And
I was going to say that chunking it up, that is a good hack for and homework. If you have a child doing tasks, that was actually one of the things that was on my son's IEP, was giving instructions, break it up. Or if you have a long test, give them like 5 questions, that go do these 5 questions, bring it back to me. Like after you do the 5 questions, do a lap around the hall, then come back, do these next 5 questions. So that's a great tip.
It's very hard to get into hyper focus. So
yes.
I literally will set timers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that same sort of hyper focus ability, or tendency to hyper focus and just put your head down and go until you fall over, it makes me really good at my job.
And they'll take advantage of it too.
And I cannot be distracted. If you present me a problem at work, or some math problem, or this machine isn't working right, I will ignore all else until I have figured out exactly what's wrong with that.
The ways capitalism takes advantage of us.
Yeah.
Well, and once I started getting into therapy and emotional work, I realized that my brain works in a way where I will solve a problem for myself, whether it's the right solution or not. And then I learned that the Marine Corps taught me to make quick decisions and not right decisions, and then I had to reevaluate everything that I based my logic on.
So you guys have already started talking in this context. But so how does this sort of stuff, the hypermobility and the things that come along with it, how does it affect your vocation and your career, that sort of thing?
It stopped mine. I haven't worked since April of 2022.
So 2 years. Wow.
As a drag queen, I see a lot of people with similar symptoms because a lot of the same personality quirks end up doing the same hobbies, and because it's so present in people who present as ADHD loves cross-dressing for some reason. Absolutely adores it. There's so much to do. So it's very stimulating and mentally satisfying. So any room I walk in, I could just pull on someone's skin and it's just gonna
I would like someone
right out.
else's skin, actually,
Wow.
in a non-serial killer way.
Maybe that's our second Silence of the Lambs joke.
Yeah.
Actually, it's our third if we
Oh,
count
yeah.
the one that's off camera.
I don't like that.
Anyway, where were we?
I think in my job I've gravitated to what I'm good at. I had a desk job for a number of years and I felt like crap. My only exercise was getting up and going to the bathroom or getting coffee, then back to my desk, and I just basically ended up sitting in my chair on the computer, spinning around in circles like a Tasmanian devil because I could not get comfortable. The other coworkers would come by and say, "Why are you kicked back with your feet on your desk and your keyboard in your lap and alternating, being twisted up in different directions?" And it didn't suit me. Yeah, everybody's smiling because we all know. But
greatest thing about being promoted to test lead was I got my own office and I could put a yoga mat in there.
Very nice. So yeah, now doing what I do, I'm free to get up and move around, and even encouraged to explore and move and twist and bend, and it keeps me in motion. I figured out a long time ago that my body was built to move, not to be in one spot for. Right as we sit here right now, I'm twisting in my seat, just like Shelli is.
I'm crawling across a king size bed. I just had ankle surgery, but that I was gonna say there's a great OT. Like her name is escaped me at the moment, but she had a saying at one of the EDS conferences that stuck with me ever since. She said, "Motion is lotion."
Yeah.
And that is just, that is it. That's all you need to hear, and everybody can go like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
I definitely feel better. I love reformer Pilates because gravity is not my friend. Like I can't stand, I can't do the standing exercises like I used to do in Impact.
Bar.
And so I liked bar, but I didn't like the rah-rah of bar.
Yeah.
And what I like about the reformer is I get on the reformer and I'm in my space and it's
your space.
She's not like, good job, Shelli. Yeah. Get out of my face. I should have known I was autistic.
I switched. I mainly do strength and cardio in the water. Really, I would say it put my dysautonomia into controlled remission. It has its moments, but
it's funny you say that. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was very into swimming. I was not, for any Marine Corps listeners out there, I was not a MCWIS. I wasn't an instructor, but I did become an AMPIT instructor, which was basically just water aerobics for Marines. But that was, whenever we'd split up Marines and, split up days when we had a PT, I always took pool day. We're all going to the pool.
I can swim for 3 hours. I can't hardly run for more than 3 miles, and now I'm not even going to try. But I will, if you have shoulder mobility or hypermobility issues, swim strokes can actually make it worse. My PT was like, you need to stop swimming, so you need to do other moves, like safer moves. So I rarely swim laps now. But
what about on a kickboard? So
if you can get stable,
on the board and then do
so other moves, like the typical swim strokes aren't great if you're working on.
I could never keep my. Never do it.
And that CHOP protocol that I mentioned earlier, I use a row machine, but one of the recommended exercises for your intervals of exercise is just kickboard, just on a kickboard doing gentle laps,
Yeah.
so that POTS program, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia one,
Yeah,
just
the
really
point is
gentle like that.
position while
Right.
you're doing cardiovascular activity. It really does, that protocol really has made a difference.
Does anyone else get this feeling when they leave a pool? Like a year ago, I was in a wade pool in Mexico. Lovely, lovely place. Went there basically every day of the trip. I would just wade around, but every time I would walk up those stairs to get out, it was like I was putting on a vest that was 70 pounds.
Yes.
I think I know the answer.
Mm.
So when we're in the pool, part of the reason why our dysautonomia gets better is because of something called baroreceptors, which are in your cardiovascular system, and they detect blood pressure and air pressure and stuff. And that's it tells your autonomic nervous system to adjust. So I think if you have a dysautonomia challenge like POTS or orthostatic intolerance, that sort of thing, we're slow to adapt. So that's the answer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel amazing in the water. I don't like to really swim on the surface, like the conventional swim strokes and stuff, as mentioned, aren't good for things. But I love to be underwater. Like I've gone to the Y and done laps, but I bring fins in a mask.
Yeah.
And I'll dolphin kick for half the length of the pool underwater.
Yeah.
Come up, breathe, and continue on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all just beached mermaids.
Yeah, exactly. Beached mermaids, perfect.
We need to add salt to our diet. We collect thingamabobs.
There you go. I'm scuba certified, and some of the best time in my life was doing scuba stuff underwater, upside down. I felt like this was my natural home.
I literally almost took a job and moved to the Virgin Islands so I could just scuba all day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, there's not a hospital here, so
yeah.
Idea.
My only experience is in the helicopter dunk tank, where they put you into a simulated helicopter and turn it upside down.
Yeah.
You have a canister of air, and you have to swim out. So pretend like if a helicopter went down.
The spare air. Yeah, I've seen that on video, and it looks terrifying.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. I never pursued it. They were like, because all the guys in Okinawa that do the dunk tank are also the scuba instructors. And so they were like, you're here for 6 months. Do you want to learn how to snorkel, scuba? And I'm like, no, I just did it. That was awful. I don't want to do that.
but
I will say, I thought I was scared of it, but I just immediately adapted to it. So
yeah,
that's cool.
It feels being underwater feels like my body's natural home for some reason. Like it doesn't hurt to move. I don't feel weird. I can be in any position, completely upside down, looking straight ahead of me at fish on the bottom of a pond or whatever. And it's a bizarre experience when you think about it, but I absolutely felt at home in that environment. But then getting out, just like you mentioned, Brandon, I felt like I weighed 1,000 pounds, and I started to see colors as my knees got out of the water. Just from my body being in the water that long.
Really made me more tired than I normally would.
Yeah.
I don't get that gravity feeling. I just can't, the temperature regulation issue.
Yeah.
Even once I'm cooler and I put a shirt on, it'll a few minutes later, it'll be wet again. I was dry just a minute ago. So I have to do this weird thing where I have to air dry. So for a long time, even though I feel cool, because the second I put, certain people in the house are not sad about me standing around a fan naked. Well, no one else is seeing it, as far as I know.
Thank God.
Rude.
And then after some exertion like that, I will feel awesome for maybe a half an hour or an hour, and then I will just fall over and be done for the day. Just completely, irresistible sleep. Just what do you call it? Post-exertional malaise or something. It just I'm just out like a light.
Yeah,
with no control of it.
Do you guys also have the delayed onset of muscle soreness, DOMS? Yeah.
The last time I went to a gym, I did a whole bunch of cable machine stuff and felt amazing, and felt amazing the rest of the day. And the next morning I woke up and I could not move my arms for
Me,
like
I
3
have,
days.
I've worked out a lot, like you were saying, doing strength training and stuff. For me, I found as I've gotten older, because I did work out heavily and consistently all through my 20s, that the soreness from the workouts started to hit a little bit later and a little bit later and last a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and to the point now where it doesn't even have to be a workout. If I overexert myself just in real life, it's going to catch up to me. It's going to last a long time, and it's just,
I think part of that is, so like we have like body guarding, like muscle guarding, and so there's tension in our muscles, and so that causes like a release of chemicals and acids and stuff. So I think like those muscle spindle fibers just are constantly like under stress in our bodies, and then you throw in some challenging, like intentional strength training. So it's something for us, strength training really does have to be isolated on like our supportive muscles first, and then building up to, the bigger muscle groups, but also building up strength slowly is more serious, I would say, for us. So like if you heard me say, oh, strength training was great for me, don't just like dive right into it, like work with a, physical medicine rehab physician, get help with it.
yeah.
The last PT I saw also told me, just because of the way I am and the way I need to co-contract muscles to move and all that, to do any activity, I'm spending about 50% more energy than a normal person.
And I want to go back to what you just said. Doug said to co-contract muscles. If you don't understand what he's saying, our muscles don't work the same because of our hypermobility. So like what I said, we have some weird weaknesses and that sort of thing. Like we're double working or triple working.
Mm-hmm.
Our muscle movements are not doing the same as like the typical body.
Can I unmute
You're
you?
getting caught on the.
How do I unmute you? I muted Bryan just for a minute because
He's frozen. Is he frozen? Oh
no, he's not. I
still.
muted you. Can you unmute? I just want to make sure you can unmute yourself. I muted you real quick because some sound in your space kept cutting in on.
Oh,
I kept seeing it
got
pop
it.
in.
Oh, there he's back.
Probably my son. Yeah, my
yeah.
wife
So that's the only
were-
reason why I muted you. But then I freaked out because I couldn't unmute you. So
Well, I'm about to have to run, but before I do, I'm heading out to ketamine therapy, and I thought that maybe I'd see if anybody had any questions or wanted to know more about that.
My pain doctor mentioned it. It's on a list for me, but I'm actually going to maybe investigate to see if I have dopa-responsive dystonia, because that's actually something else that Megan mentioned, just watching me move around and all of my other things. So I have a pelvic MRI soon, and then I'm going to maybe see a movement doctor because I think I have some hip issue. But ketamine,
I would love to.
yeah, that's on my list. So maybe we can.
Well, yeah.
I don't have any direct questions now, but whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I'll say this. I was referred specifically for PTSD and not for pain, but just anecdotally, right? As I've had these surgeries on each limb, right hand, which you write a lot with your right hand, especially if you're a test engineer, especially if you're a Marine, you store up a lot of just memories. There's so many nerves that are connected through your hands and upper body to your sense of the world, right? And I've found that healing from physical surgeries has also helped with healing from mental traumas. And so after each of my surgeries, starting, I think after the third one is when I got sent to ketamine therapy, whenever I started on my legs. Each surgery I followed up with ketamine therapy, and it's helped with both healing from trauma and just healing in general from the surgery. Now, all of my surgeries were neuroplasties for the most part, which is where they were moving the nerves around. And there's a lot of thought about how the ketamine, healing process works. It's supposed to be neuroregenerative. I can't really speak to that specifically, other than to say it's worked every time that I've done it. And it's been huge for me in my process of accepting Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, accepting that I'm not the normal person that I thought that I was, that life is very different than what I understood it to be. Ketamine has helped a ton with that, along with therapy.
So ketamine is helped with more than one thing, and is especially the practice of acceptance.
Yeah,
I've heard amazing things about ketamine.
Yeah, and I saw, Doug, do you want to share about low dose naltrexone?
Yeah, it is something that came up in my research, and I've been on it for almost 2 years now. And as a pain reliever, that sort of thing, pain resetter, and it does help drastically. I would say my everyday discomfort that was maybe a 6 or a 7 is now a 2.
Okay.
But something it's done is given me energy that I've never had before. The whole chronic fatigue thing is, I think I'm almost feeling like a normal person.
Really?
As
That's
far as
amazing.
fatigue goes, like it's been insane with reduction in fatigue, boost in energy, whatever you want to call it. But I don't hesitate to just jump up and do something now.
Yeah.
If versus sitting and weighing, how sore will this make me? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm on traditional pain management, so opiate therapy. But that is really, really situationally dependent for me. All these surgeries have kind of made that. I'm very glad that I have that tool, right? This is part of that acceptance and not having to suck it up, because if I have that mentality, I would have been sucking it up for the last 2 years through surgeries, and you can't do that forever. So I'm excited to kind of get past this stage and give low dose naltrexone another try. I've tried it initially, and I'll save that for the book. But
Who did you guys go to try an LDN protocol?
my psych did it for me the first time.
I approached my primary care physician.
My pain specialist put me on LDN for 2 months, and it made me really sick. So now we're trying something new.
I've heard that also.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard it's either it's great or it's like not great.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Okay.
It worked on the pain.
Is there anything else that you want to discuss or further highlight that you think we maybe didn't miss, or something, or any question you want to ask us
or ask each other,
or ask? Yeah,
I just like to throw out there before it gets lost is that the genetics says that males and females should have EDS equally.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of guys out there suffering in silence that hopefully find their way to
all of the autistic women who were lost, just like all of the men, if the pain.
It's like with
yep.
Yeah.
Just looking at my own family, I can see it's pretty equally affecting the genders. But in terms of diagnosis, there's a gap for sure.
We don't have a lot of men in my family. Like my dad had 3 daughters, but my dad, and I'm not really, we have a weird whatever. He was a diver, so that tells me what I need to know, and he was good at it. And my son can do prayer arms behind his back and has all the finger stuff. So he doesn't have a lot of pain right now, but he does some of the stuff he has mentioned is potsy.
Yeah.
So we're just keeping an eye on him. And my daughter, or my youngest, is definitely,
and the
they have more shit going on.
Yeah, the men in my family typically really didn't fall apart, become what they would say is disabled until
really middle-aged or later. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was running until his 50s, and
Oh my
My dad
goodness.
was active duty for 29
Yeah,
years. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Wow.
but
So
now it's very, very.
this is my take on the gender
yeah.
split, because this question tortured me, right? Because I'm right there with you. You know, I'm looking at the numbers and it wasn't matching up, and it was part of a whole like psychiatric freaking crisis that I had. But I think that what it comes down to, in my opinion, this is what I've kind of what I think is that trauma, the amount of trauma that you have in your life, it affects how you express. So we might be equally presenting, but just inherently in life, women experience more trauma. Just, I mean, one right off the bat, it's childbirth, right? Like, how many EDS zebras do we see that they had a baby and then everything, all their symptoms started? And so I think that part of the gender gap is also a gap in expression, because there are, you know,
Physiologically speaking, there's more chances to go wrong, maybe.
well,
I don't
just
know.
that,
But
that
no,
there's
but no,
not,
that's
I
not.
mean, there's
There
some
are
guys who just, they don't have very traumatic lives, you know, and a woman, you know, may not have the same, and I'm just saying the average citizen, right? Women are going to have that major, that's, you know, not universal, but it's going to impact a large majority. And that will
intersection.
be that, you know, that's a very large, you know, medical event in a person's life
Yeah.
that is just not going to occur in males.
I think also a big kick in sort of separating the division from those who have the same genetics is, you know, at puberty, males get testosterone, which tightens them up, makes them stronger. It's sort of anti-EDS symptoms. And ladies get estrogen and progesterone, which loosen them all up and make things worse.
And the more, I mean, men's hormones fluctuate, but not as
in the
unpredictably as women's can.
Not, yes.
I don't know.
Things.
I'll say they fluctuate and it's unpredictable, and I can't tell if it's the moon or my wife or me. I don't know.
I think also men are socialized differently.
Well, that's my next point. Okay, so men get diagnosed sooner, but there's only 4 studies that we've really found, and it all spoke to how well you could perform athletically.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
like, you know, the women on the red carpet, what are you wearing? And it's like, okay, men, how does this affect you and your ability to like be the burly?
It's very objectifying.
So
and is what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's
and you know, the way that I made it through active duty Marine Corps was by being the smart sergeant. I was not going to be the guy that you sent to carry a machine gun. That really would wreck me, and I would be.
You were the problem solver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's like adaptations that we make in our lives that, you know, just it's a human experience.
What about you, Brandon? Any final thoughts? Thank you for joining. I'm so glad.
One thing I think is that EDS is probably a lot more prevalent than people give it credit for, because a lot of my symptoms were present in my mother, and it wasn't until someone told her, no, because she said, everyone gets dizzy when they get off the couch. Everyone wakes up during surgery sometimes. No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, Mom.
Yeah. I think if everyone did it, you would hear about it more often.
I have the overwhelming urge to be like, I want to see pictures of your mom now. And, you know, we always joke about how we all vaguely look alike, right? Do you guys see it, or is it just me?
I can see it with me and Brandon. Doug? Yeah, I can see it with me and you too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My final thought.
Whoever our great ancestor is, he's laughing wherever he's at. Yeah, fuck you.
Wait, hold on.
Bendy motherfucker.
Strong mean gene.
Carry it. I got all the areas. Yeah.
Okay, I really do gotta run. You guys
go get your good drugs.
Great.
Thank you, Brian.
See you, Spoonie.
So I think we'll go ahead and close out the episode, but
That was fun.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So that was the end of our series with the zebra dudes. As I reflect on my gratitude for Brandon, Bryan, and Doug, I think about how they so vulnerably shared their experiences with hypermobility. And with the added perspective of the news this week of the preliminary hEDS gene manuscript from Norris Lab, I have some additional thoughts. There is a strange beauty in something so painful coming to fruition and creating community. We are the village. So thank you so much for joining the Hacking Hypermobility podcast today. Now, please go give us some reviews, stars, comments, something to show you're listening, and share with whatever social media platform, whether you're listening or watching a video, go rate us. And I'm going to leave you with Bryan's adage, healing is weakness, leaving the body. Oh, and a reminder of our disclaimer, the information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice. Consult with your healthcare professionals for personalized guidance on managing the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes. Bye!